This is Belinda Wallen, Board Secretary for Gettysburg Area School District. This evening, due to a physical absence of the President and Vice President, I'm calling the meeting to order. So we are calling the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. And at this time, I'll take a motion from the floor to appoint a pro tem president to preside over the meeting.
I move to appoint Tim Sigmund as the pro tem president to preside tonight.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any yeas or nays? Do I need to do a roll call?
Just a vote.
Just a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any nay? All right, motion carries. Mr. Sigmund, you could preside over the meeting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just kick it off here. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during the citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during the citizen participation section of the meeting. The board will not tolerate public outbursts or disruptions, nor will it tolerate the comments made outside of the citizen participation portion of the meeting. Public comment is welcome, and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Kenny and Mike are on phone. Mr. Morris is not here today. He's excused. I guess pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Notices and communications. We got Franklin Township?
Yeah, Dr. Lappy.
Thanks. We're here to present tonight. Good evening, everybody. And we'll let these guys introduce themselves when we get to that slide. But we're basically here to talk about, and we're very excited about this, is we took some time over the past school year to write a mission and vision statement. And it's been on my heart for quite a few years to develop that. And we started to do it before COVID, and then, well, we all know what happens after that. So we revisited it, rejoined, and we put together a team. Vanessa, do you mind? Yeah, there you go. And you can see we've got multiple people from different grade levels, different departments, our school secretary. And so these guys are here tonight. They're also listed up there, but I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll take you through our process.
I'm Tara Johnson. I'm a third grade teacher at Franklin.
I'm Natalie Garman. I'm a reading specialist.
Gavin Hogue, school counselor.
Oh, look, Dr. Messer made our screen over there. That was unintended. All right. So this is, we'll start a little bit by telling you about our planning process. Tara's going to share a little bit about how we got started, and then we'll just take it through. I don't know if you've ever even seen other vision statements or mission statements everywhere, but there's not a common protocol or I guess pattern to them, which we found that out. We were kind of looking for someone to say exactly how this should go. But anyway, I'll let Tara speak next.
So when we started this process back before COVID, we sent out something to staff. Dr. Lappy sent out a survey, and we started with the prompt, when I think of Franklin Township, the following one or two words or phrases comes to mind. So some of the examples you can see listed up there, like a family, passion, all in. positive thinking, teamwork, growth mindset, caring, kind. These are just a few of the things that people were saying, like our staff were saying about our culture and what we do on a daily basis together.
So as we were forming our vision, we came up with some characteristics just about what is a vision. So a vision has 5 characteristics. It attracts commitment and energizes people, creates meaning in the workers' lives, establishes a standard of excellence, bridges the present to the future, and transcends the status quo.
And as you saw from the previous slide, it was a pretty good-sized team that we had, but it was amazing how all of us became unified pretty quickly with where we wanted to take this. We used a little help from AI even, and looked at other examples of vision statements from other organizations, not just schools, but even Apple and different organizations to kind of learn about the process and what the end result could look like. Made many, many drafts, mainly to try to boil it down. We had lots of ideas that we really needed to make more succinct so that it could be a one-liner that would really stick out in staff and students' minds, and so that it really becomes a memorable thing that we use to influence our day-to-day functioning.
Yeah, so just to kind of echo what Gavin had said, we huddled regularly, and we would sit with it for a while, and we'd come back, and when you think about it, you reflect on it all the time. For those of us who drive a little further, we have a lot of time to think on it and come up with another idea. Then we looked up other places like Nike and Starbucks, and there's just, in your own organizations, you probably have them as well. And there are just so many different ones out there, and we just were like, how do we really narrow this down? And so we took everything. Those are just a sample on the left-hand side of. There was over 100. We had over 100 different words and phrases that came from our staff and kids, and we kind of it was almost like a word. Like where that activity is where you have like several words. I don't know what it's called, but what is it called? Word cloud. I knew Ann would know that. So that's kind of like, that was the overarching theme, those words in there. And so again, we just spent so much time, and we'd come back, and sometimes we would sit there in silence for 20 minutes, and we would just look at it and remove words and put words in and take words out. And so anyway, then we came up with some final changes. And I said to these guys, when we present this to our team, they're gonna be like, that took 6 months. Because, you come up with like a few sentences. And so it's a lot of hard work and a lot of heart poured into this. But so we're really excited about it. And we shared it with our family and our families and our kids. And we presented it at one of our staff huddles. So anyway, go ahead, Gavin, you're up. It's hard because I don't know what slide's coming next.
So mid-year, we had our Warrior Way celebration, and we thought that would be a good time to kick this off and introduce it to the students. And we hear very often about the Warrior Way in our school, and the students are hearing about it every day, and then hearing it highlighted at the Warrior Way celebrations. And we're like, okay, how can we connect the vision to the Warrior Way? Because they're both important and they should be connected. And so we kind of took the idea of the word way and Warrior Way, and so, well, another way we can look at that is it's a path. We walk the Warrior Way, and we want to stay on this path of being here, being involved, being committed, being kind. But paths lead somewhere, and where does this path lead? It leads to where we want to see the students and our staff ultimately be in the future, and that's our vision. And so that's kind of how we introduced the idea to the students that, okay, here's the Warrior Way and how it leads us to the vision of where we see you guys being and becoming in the future.
I was like, what's coming next? Go ahead.
So ultimately, we looked at our vision first, and we actually took Gettysburg Area School District's mission, and we used that as sort of our anchor to develop our mission as well. So you can see it here. Franklin Township Elementary School has a child-centered, positive culture where teamwork and kindness drive growth and excellence, intentionally preparing for a future where every child is empowered to succeed and lead with confidence, resilience, and compassion. And you can see there are bolded words, and those were the words that we really took and drilled down to create our vision.
We took the mission statement off the wall in
Yeah.
our school, and we brought it into to where we were meeting to try to align it, to make sure that we're staying in line with the overarching mission of our district.
Yep. And from that, it helped us to develop our vision.
Which then becomes our FTE's promise, empowering one another to grow, lead, and succeed with kindness and confidence. And that was kind of like the end result of it. So here we just have a few testimonials, just 2 slides that we just wanted to share, just because our culture is so important to us. And without culture, really, nothing else matters. I mean, I've always heard it said, you fall in love with the culture, not the people, because the people will come and go. And so we try to build, and that's kind of how it's been in our school, and we try to really build a place where parents want to send their kids want to come, and teachers want to, and staff want to show up for work. And I did a quick little data run today by myself, and I was like, I wonder how many of us, I was talking to Gavin about this, drive more than 35 minutes, and it's just about 40% of our team drives that far, because I always say we have a get-to job, and we don't have to come, we get to come, and I just think it's a testament to these guys and our team. It's such an extraordinary culture. But so we just have a couple, like 2 slides of just some testimonies from parents, related services, a presenter, some kids. So we can read those if we, yeah, okay.
So a parent said, in 28 years, 8 counties of districts, 2 IUs and 2 states, and I have never experienced a school culture like you guys have here at FTE. It's simply magical and something to be treasured. You'll all have an extraordinary thing going on here. I spend time in a lot of different places, traveling all over the globe, and there's just something really unique about your school here. I instantly knew it. It cannot be explained, it's felt. And as a new family, we couldn't ask for more. My daughters are thriving at FTE. We've been to several schools, and my kids have never had the sense of belonging they have found at FTE. And as parents, we have never felt like an important part of a school like we do here. They actually mean it when they say, you matter.
Some students have said, I love coming to school here. I miss school when I'm not here. I know I will be supported during my day. I feel safe here. I am loved here. And the grown-ups make sure we believe in ourselves and can do hard things while we learn. A substitute teacher said, as a substitute, the people here make sure I know I am an important part of the team. I am seen here. I don't get this feeling anywhere else. A teacher said, I drive pretty far to get to this place, and spending my days at FTE make every single mile worth it. And finally, a parent has said, our family is so grateful for you and your team. Thank you for not only taking the best care of our kids, but also for holding your staff and each other to the highest standards of excellence and accountability, always wanting to be better.
So thank you, Gavin. Before we begin this video, Dr. Moore, I have to apologize because you didn't make the cut. I know, here's what happened. It became about just about kids, but I figured you'll have questions, and that'll be your chance to say what you want to say. It wasn't anything you did wrong. It was a great video, but then it became, we just wanted to include the kids in it. So I'm really sorry. I just wanted you to know, because I know you might be waiting for your part. All right, so you can share what you wanted to say at the end. All right, thanks, Melissa.
For example, if you have a teacher that's teaching you how to tie a shoe, so they would show you how to tie a shoe, and then you would keep practicing and practicing no matter what, and not give up. And then you finally get it, and then you are on with your life. Empowering means to teach people on their own to be kind and be nice. What it needs to grow is to face challenges and to learn from your mistakes. You accidentally get something wrong and stuff, and somebody helps you, you learn from that mistake and see why what you did. So another example is our 3rd grade board. We help them by helping them read, because some of their 5th graders, which is us too, and some more, we go down here and read with them, and we read but help them improve their reading and learn new skills. But it also helps us because we learn how to help people and be kind. It also helps our reading as well.
And Jamila, what does it mean to be confident?
It means to be kind to your friends and have a good feeling in yourself. Like hoping you put up things correctly, right? It also means to believe in yourself.
All right, Chase. What do you think it means to be a leader?
Show respect to other friends and help them if they need help. And include others, be kind, and do your best.
Nolan, how has Franklin Township Elementary helped you become a leader?
So I become a leader because they've taught me that if I can put my mind to something, I can make it come true. And when it comes true, it can be reality. Kind of like chess club, it was a dream, but now it's reality. And that's what FTE taught me. To kind of if I could put my mind to something, I can achieve it. Confidence is basically when you tell yourself, oh, I can do this, I am strong enough. In life, there is going to be some things where you're going to want to tell yourself you can't do it, but if you tell yourself believe you can do it.
Delilah, how has your confidence grown?
Working hard and trying my best throughout the school year.
What does it mean to you to be a leader?
To do the right thing even when somebody else isn't.
What 2 or 3 words come to mind when you think about Franklin Township Elementary?
Kind, and focused. Cheerful, helpful, and safe. Believe you can. Show respect. Include others. The teachers are nice, and they are helpful and generous.
Give me one word to describe Franklin Township. Anything else?
Caring and serious.
Jaleesa, how has your confidence been improving this year?
My confidence has been improving because of my teachers and my friends. Thanks to them.
Caroline, when you think of Franklin Township, what do you think of?
Helpful teachers having fun.
Having fun doing what? Taya, how have you been a leader this school year?
By sticking up for others.
How does kindness help you grow at Franklin Township?
Kindness helps us grow because if your friend needs help on something, you can go over to them and help them.
What about confidence?
Confidence helps us because if you're trying a new thing and you're scared, you have to be confident to do it.
So Abby, what would you tell a new student to Franklin Township Elementary about the culture of our school?
Well, what I like about this school that the new student would like is that the teachers and staff always greet you with a smile. It makes you feel welcome. Also that there are special opportunities like in gym, there are students and staff and there are library helpers and art helpers to become a leader. And the teachers will teach you stuff that you didn't know but will know because they teach you well. All this shows that everybody has a unique ability. FT is a family. Kindness. Encouraging. Loving. Welcoming. Fun. Good friends. Awesome teachers. Right principal. Safe. Encouraging. Respect. Empowering. Slow concept. Perseverance. Strength. Engineering. How to be. A lawyer. Give me courage. So I can live. We know that divided we'll fall, so together we stand.
The end. So. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening and watching. And I really want to thank these guys because each of them are moms and dads and they gave up their time tonight to be here with me to present to you guys. So anyway, thanks Tara, Gavin, and Natalie. And thank you guys for watching.
Thanks.
okay, make a comment? Sure. Dr. Lappy and team, just no, sorry. In case you, maybe a question or so, but I do want to say, and I think Shelley always appreciates it when I share this. It truly is a utopian society out there at Franklin Elementary School. I was just there last week, and Mr. Hogue facilitated a career day that was just wonderful, and just interacting with the staff, the kids, and the professionals that came in to share there. Again, it just proves what I've always said. But what does the Warrior Way look like? And when I look at your mission and vision, it's more than a written document. It's a living, working document that I think you all deliver on a daily basis. You walk the walk, and I think we all appreciate that. Team huddles. What is a team huddle, Dr. Lappy?
We all get in, we put our hands down. Kidding. We really just, it's a meeting. But I feel like when you're part of a team, you huddle. So that's what we do. We get together and whether it's these guys or we have our faculty huddles. And actually, the idea came from Gavin. I copied from him. I heard him talking about it a couple years ago, and I was like, I really like that. And it made me realize, like, it is a team, and we huddle together, and we do more than just meet. Do you have anything you want to add, Gavin? How'd you come up with that?
Yeah, I think kind of the origin story, there's a huddle is usually brief, and then we go out and we do what we need.
Yeah.
So that, my idea, all of what she said, and we want to do more than just what we say. We're just the talking piece of it.
Well,
Thanks, bud.
at McDaniel College, recently I had a course with undergraduate students, freshmen, that were trying to decide majors and so on. And I got to tell you, I was taken back about how fragile some of these 19 and 20-year-olds really are. And any type of constructive criticism, even though I felt it was constructive criticism, how some of these young people just are very high anxious and kind of fall apart a little bit. And when I looked at part of your mission and vision up there, the word resiliency stood out to me. And I just think more and more, we as adults, you all as professionals, anytime that you can share some of the things that you've overcome, when you've gotten knocked down or you've made mistakes, how you've overcome those and you get back up when you're knocked down and so on. I think we're missing that today somewhere. And I just more and more, if our especially our teachers and so on, and we as adults and parents and grandparents can relay those personal testimonies about some of the difficulties that we've had in our lives and how we bounce back. And I hope the pendulum is swinging on that a little bit, because we do seem to have a lot of high anxiety young people today. Not just young people, a lot of people. And then the final thing that I would just like to say is that the culture and climate that you all have produced out there and you're delivering on a daily basis with your mission and vision does not happen by accident. And Dr. Lappy, I do believe that your leadership, along with the rest of you and your leadership, because of you all, we can't take that for granted. And you just got to keep working hard at that all the time. And I think you're doing a great job with that. And keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have something very quick just while we have you here, and then I promise you can go. Yeah, I appreciated that presentation, and I think in particular for me the slide, like teachers are always hearing about, we had a professional development day today, so people talked to us a lot about the compelling why and, all of the planning that goes into a normal year where you do have goals and vision and mission in mind. But I think the reason that I really like the way you guys are approaching that is the way you're making the learning known to the students in that process. So the slide of the path and that description caught me. Like, I like that. I want to take that and borrow it. But I think that that's really going to be powerful for the kids too, to make sure that they feel like they're a part of that that vision as well. And then, of course, just wanted, while we had some actual teachers in the room in front of us, to thank you all and say Happy Teacher Appreciation Week as well. So to everybody, not just the three of you, but your work is appreciated for sure. Thanks.
I just wanted to add real quick. Sorry.
Making sure it was on.
I'm also a parent at Franklin Township, and it's real. The connections that our teachers are making out there are real. It's authentic. The leadership that Shelley brings every single day is real. I actually moved my kids into our district because I saw what we were striving for at Gettysburg, and I made sure that I put them in our school district whenever I started working at Franklin Township because I was so moved by the teachers in that school and the leadership there, and I just thought it was amazing. So, and my kids are thriving, and I love it there, and I think that we're doing amazing things, and the FTE promise is just, our vision for the next chapter to come. So thank you for everything you guys do too.
I think Belinda is up after the slide with the kids.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not going to have that warm utopia feeling here. This evening, we're presenting an update to the 25-26 budget. Before you this evening are just a real quick review on our preliminary, if you could advance it, please. On our preliminary review, we have our proposed final numbers listed here. You'll see the columns listed as a 0%, 1%, and a 1.5%, which is slightly down from a previous report of 2%. So our revenue, of course, we have $77,205,051, which is a 5.2% increase, with the concept of using some of PSER's $345,902 for a total revenue or budget of $77,550,953, an overall 5.4% increase. If we go to our expense slide, our expenses in summary, we have salaries $27,369,905, benefits of $20,046,542. Total salaries and benefits, $47,415,637 out of the $77 million, which is a 3.5% increase. Our object series code 300, $6,400,000, $807,000, 500, we have $11.8 million, 600, which is our 3.5, 700 is $171,000. 800, $3.3 million. 900 is $5.982 million. So just a quick summary here real quick. We have our total expenditures of $79,186,037. So if we have our revenue minus our expenditures, we have a deficit of $1.635,084. Where our goal is to maintain a 6% fund balance according to policy. That 6% fund balance of percent of expenditures would be $4,751,162. Just in a quick summary, salaries and benefits, exactly what it says. 300 object code is mostly IU services and other professional services the district has throughout all the buildings. Our 400 series code is purchase of property services. 500 is a very large one, which includes our charter schools, transportation, and any other tuition that occurs throughout the district. 600 supplies, this isn't just your classroom supplies. This is supplies for technology, laptops, cords, software, all falls in that 600 category. Even though it says supplies, it's a quite cumbersome account that includes a wide range of supplies for the district, whether it be technology and or classroom supplies. Property and equipment, of course, is listed there. Typically, it's new and or replacement equipment. The 800 series will have our interest, and 900 is typically our debt. In this nutshell summary of that. Moving to the next slide. This is just a quick update as to where we started to where we're at in terms of the revenues with fund balance. revenues without fund balance, we started at 75.5. We're at 77.205 with a proposal of a recommendation of 1.5. And again, the 1% is for the ACTI and 0.5% is recommended for everything else, all the other expenditures throughout the district. The expenditures, of course, we started at 80 million. You can see we're down to 79.1. The gap changed, of course. Initially, when we started out March 17th, we were unreconciled, which is the difference between revenues and expenditures, 4.5 million. And so for the May 5th, 1.5%, we're at 1.98 million. And our concept would be to use fund balance to help fill that gap. And yet we would still maintain a 6% fund balance of $4,751,162 at the bottom. In between there, you can see what the total available funds would be is using fund balance as well as the PSERS commitment. Even if we were to stick with just 1% with ACTI, we would still be looking to fill a gap of $188,602. That's why the recommendation of 1.5% is before you this evening. And again, this is the proposed final this evening that we're going to be looking for a vote later on in the meeting. Proposed final is required by Act 1, and there is a timeline that needs to be adhered to when you're going through your budgetary processes. Why I say that is this evening we're looking for a vote on the proposed budget. We are recommending 1.5%. That is not a final budget. That is a proposal in order to advertise it for the next 30 days before the board has the public budget hearing, as well as the final vote set for June. Next slide. Here are the increases and decreases in a summary format that occurred throughout the budget process year to date. As you can see, largest portion, which I mentioned previous slide, is our contractual salaries. Medical insurance and PSERS rate has gone up. Our cyber charter still climbs. Transportation cost increase. Our technology software and supports are increasing in terms of cyber and supports of cyber. Not cyber school, I mean cyber security in that aspect. And of course then our increases again is our ACTI bond future debt funding, which is the second year 2% that we're requesting. Decreases in the budget. We had a decrease in our workman's comp rate. We were able to joint procure. We're part of a consortium. We had a reduction in IU services as well as security services. The security services was the event security that I spoke previously about at one of the other prior meetings. It's not elimination of event security. It is just keep retaining the current vendor rather than looking at another vendor where we had additional funds budgeted. So we reduced those. Reduction in purchase of property services, more specific, lawn care, water and sewer. The reduction in supply, natural gas, fuel, oil, and electricity. And of course, a reduction in our 5-year capital funding plan that was discussed. And so our next slide. Here's just a quick review. The Act 1 index that the district has had since 18-19 school year. We have been in upwards of 2.4% from the beginning. Highest as it ever was so far in Act 1, the environment, for 24-25. And for 25-26, you can see it's dropping back down to 4.8%. And again, those are the increases that have occurred as well as what's proposed for the 25-26 school year. So on an 8-year average, we've had increases of less than 1 increases when you're doing an average. And again, the 25-26 proposed is based on the proposed final budget of millage increase. Next slide. Tax impact. Well, we know what the homestead farmstead numbers came in. It was an increased appropriation by the state from the year before. With that being said, the averaged market and assessed value in the district is $273,881. So if you look at a 1.5% increase, which what we're recommending, it's $46.70 increase. This slide also shows what it would be for a 1% as well as the index, which we always share with the board as in the past. And this is just the impact of how to calculate what your taxes would be as an increase in using the market assessed values along the side. I believe this form is on our website, so then, of course, anyone can use the form to help calculate. However, the next slide will represent the homestead farmstead in relation to the average property. So for the average property, or excuse me, assessed value of $273,891, tax again $46.70. Homestead farmstead increased over the prior year, so there will be a reduction, an additional reduction on the tax bill of $29.26. Yeah, sorry. This is up here now, yeah. Yeah, at the bottom. So actually, the net effect for a 1.5% increase is $17.44 for the year for taxes on a 1.5%. Next slide. Here's our timeline. Again, as I mentioned, so this evening we're looking for a proposed final vote. It is not the final budget. As you can see, we need to take the action later in June. If for in the event that the proposed budget does not pass this evening, we will need to set a special meeting in order to do action, simply because I need 30 days between the window for final budget. So if not this evening, and it goes to the May 19th, there will need to be a special meeting in June to have action on the budget, or you can change the meeting to May 12th to still be in the 30-day timeline to have June 16th, which are their options. I do not anticipate any other changes to expenditures at this point. Since the homestead farmstead numbers have come in, we have already taken into effect in this budget process, just so the board has an understanding, we've already calculated in approximately 75% of the Amblebrook homes coming onto market according to the assessment office. Annually, Mr. Fordham reaches out to them to get an idea of how many permits were issued. We take a look at how many permits were issued and the timeline of those developments coming into play in order for the tax rolls to take effect, as well as income to come in to help support the district's budget. So again, Amblebrook is 75% of 152 homes, and Hers Ridge is 75% of 20. We have the Cambridge Crossing, which are some townhomes, some other housing permits. We have the expansion at the helicopter applicators in Strabane Township. We have Lincoln Links, which is a new miniature golf course proposed. Of course, Audi, as you can see, the building is nearly finished. That should likely come on tax rolls July 1st. A Wellspan is going through expansion. Pella's going through an expansion, as well as we also have some deductions for assessment, reassessment evaluations on some fairly large properties. And I don't necessarily want to outline those specifically because they are still within the courts, but we do have to plan accordingly. And overall, it's about a $100,000 change in revenue for those assessment appeals. So we do, when we take a look at the budget, and when I indicated that we have received our homestead farmstead, we've already factored in what those assessment changes potentially could be. So I don't necessarily envision any more money coming from the state or any more money just appearing from the local sources of revenue other than what's presented to you this evening. Unless the board has and wants to have further discussion of cuts, then of course the expenditures can change. I'll just remind the board that if expenditure changes, the fund balance appropriation changes. But again, I would wait for direction from the board in order to do so moving forward. Any questions? That's a lot of information before you. And if there's anyone that has any questions or needs any more additional information, I'd be happy to try to respond and or get you those answers as promptly as possible.
A very easy question. All of the things you just listed for reassessment, you said are already factored in, including those reductions that are potential.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Belinda, I appreciate the information you shared. The 8-year average of less than 1% is pretty impressive, I think. I've always been a fan of small incremental increases rather than a no increase for a year or two and then have to do a major hit. Did I understand you correctly? In the past couple of years, with the proposed preliminary final budget, typically we come in at a little bit less than on June 16th. Now, I know you said that looks like right now the numbers look like they're pretty hard and fast. Any chance that the 1.5 might turn into 1.3, 1.0 or something?
If it does, it's direction by the board to cut expenditures.
Okay.
I don't envision any additional revenue coming our way.
Okay.
I don't envision the state coming along and saying, oh, we're giving you additional funds because
Gotcha. The only reason I mentioned that is that seems to have been a past practice the last couple of years, if memory serves.
Yes, correct. We tried to update this budget for the hard and facts that we know of at this particular point in time.
Right.
Anything can change between now and the end of the budget, of course. But again, while we prepared this budget, there are some things that are coming along the way that we haven't necessarily accounted for either. So we have in the budget a budgetary reserve, and hopefully anything that was missed during the budget planning processes for expenditures can be utilized using that budgetary reserve for the unexpectedness.
Right. And then also, correct me if I'm wrong, we are not adding any personnel or cutting any personnel on the professional or the support staff side. That's accurate?
Correct. That's accurate.
Gotcha.
You said we were losing, or we were going to be basically losing about $100,000 worth of revenue due to them assessments. So just for the public's information, so a 1% tax increase is equal to about what?
Oh, thank you for asking. Sorry. 1% tax increase equates to $377,536.
What'd you say?
$377,536.
Okay. And we're losing about 100,000.
We're losing about 100,000.
Okay. And we got 1% for
1%.
ACTI, so leaves us at 0.5%. So, yeah, if we had that 100,000 back, that would even be less, so.
Sure.
Right.
I don't envision it coming our
No,
way.
I don't either. And to answer Al's question, if we want to come in under that 0.5, and I think board members need to bring themselves maybe in here and ask questions and try and get that down, if there's any way to do it. I know I've, year after year, been in here trying to come up with ways that we can save and cut money. And we were at 0%, 23, 24. We were at 1%, 24, 25, simply because of ACTI. And I'd just like the public to understand, we'd have ran 0% for 2 years in a row, basically, if we'd not been trying to support our ACTI, which we do wholeheartedly need to do, which I think that's a huge win for this district and says a lot for the folks running this. So that's all I got.
Yes, Kenny. Sure, go ahead.
I apologize if I'm any coughing or losing my voice. Belinda, I have just two quick questions. One for clarification. The 1.5 that I listened this evening to your presentation, 1% of that is earmarked for ACTI. So what you're really saying is 0.5. Is that correct?
That's correct. For 0.5 is considered for all the other operations of the district.
All right, I apologize. The other question I have for you is that back several years ago on a motion that some of the board members may or may not have been a part of, we looked at a balanced budget, 0 revenue, 0 expenditures, balancing out. And I apologize if I haven't seen that, but I haven't seen it. So before, I understand this is a proposed budget, it's not the budget. But prior to that, can the board see our expenditures and our revenue to date so that the board can make an intelligent decision to see where we're at? And I think you know what I'm saying. In other words, if our revenues are X and our expenditures are X, where's a shortfall or where's a windfall to that? Because we're going into this once again, unfortunately, at no fault of anybody in the district or the board, blind. But that gives us a little bit of light, if that makes sense.
It does. And Mr. Hassinger, we do have a budget to actual that is presented monthly. And while it is a month behind, it's so that we can post all of our postings accordingly. So we do have that, and that is an accurate statement of the budget to actual that is running. So the most recent one that was ran, which was just approved at the last meeting, the revenue and expenditures are coming out almost exactly where we think they were going to be. I don't anticipate any windfall of money. Again, we've kind of increased expenditures without necessarily the so-called ESSER cliff, basically. So we were receiving all this revenue from the ESSER funds, and we've increased a few of the expenditures along the way when the determination was made that we need to continue having the programs that we do, that we paid for ESSER dollars. But that is not something to say that, hey, we can just automatically eliminate, because there is the need, and the need continues. So I doubt very much if that is even an opportunity to even try to reduce the budget in terms of that.
I appreciate it, Belinda, and I apologize. It's difficult. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Difficult, especially when you're doing it on the phone. But I look forward to sitting down with you and Jason. I just think it would be easier, at least on my sense, to see where we're at on our revenues and expenditures, not what we projected, where are we actually at, to see where we're moving forward. And I do understand, and you clarified, the 1% is the ACTI commitment for the future, and the 0.5. So thank you.
Sure.
To my question, yeah. So, Belinda, you're talking about the aggregate financial forecast?
Yes.
That the last one was from February 20, the last one that was at the last meeting, it's from February 28th. And if I was looking at this correctly, and if I'm not, let me know, but it looked like our total revenue to date as of February 28th was 1.55170, and expenditures were negative 1.1593,832, which means, if I'm reading this right, we're only ahead by $395,000. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then on the second sheet of this, we have on here the ESSER 3 funds. We are not getting ESSER 3 funds?
No.
For this, so.
It's correct. It's
and
done.
And that was $2.9 million.
Correct. So
that's a lot of money to make up.
Yes. So I will say that our district is very fortunate. We filed all of our required documentation for ESSER and expensed all of our documentation through July to September. So we were able to get in and receive all of our reimbursement payments from the federal government as a pass-through, which for us was nearly $3.5 million. Some districts received an extension to file their documentation, and it's uncertain whether or not they were going to be receiving those funds. So I feel very blessed to have a team that I do, that we proceeded with and moving in the direction that we did with expensing and accounting for all those expenditures using that one-time money influx, because it was quite a challenge. If I look back and think what that all did, $8.2 million is a hard thing to spend down within a short year period of time, and to make sure you're not affecting programs to where it's going to come and go easily. So very pleased. ESSER is done with us. Great question.
Well, okay, so one other question. On this aggregate forecast, the other purchase services is where we look like we're really behind, 1.251,462. Is that transportation or can we attribute that more to cyber charter, or
It's both.
is there one more than the other, or just?
I would say the cyber charter's more than the other.
Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you, Belinda.
Thank you.
Citizens' participation. I think we have a couple here. Al's going to take care of them for me.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We have two people that have requested to address the board. We'll start out with, speaking of budget, Pat Furlow.
Hello, my name is Pat Furlow, and last year I addressed the board in reference to the tax increase you proposed of 1%. And I really didn't expect you to come back so quickly with another tax increase of 1.5%. I really do expect you all to come back so quickly with the 1%. The act is a good idea, but building a new building is not a money-wise way to go. If you were to consolidate some classrooms and take a moment to explore how to better utilize the existing high school campus in a more cost-effective way, you'd be able to solve two problems at the same time. Close what I was told a $3 million budget deficit and keep back on the same campus where the high school is located, savings of buying land, preparing structures, infrastructures, building a building, acquiring permits, transporting students from one campus to the other, and I probably could go on. In Pennsylvania, the state requirement for high school student-to-teacher ratio is generally 18-1. And with a 13-1 teacher-to-student ratio in the high school, I do believe that a consolidation of class size and reduction in workforce is not out of the question. Providing a quality education is the job of the superintendent and the board, along with using efficiently the hard-earned tax dollars the homeowners of Gettysburg Area School District from the school with. Choosing to raise taxes every year is definitely the easy way out. It's also a shirking of your responsibility to be good shepherds of the tax dollars we entrusted you with to voted you into office for. Also, it makes me wonder if the Amblebrook community had never been developed, how you would deal with the $4 million plus we contribute to the budget over the past 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Next, we have Julietta Booz.
Thank you. It's actually Bose. I don't argue with my father-in-law. Okay. No problem. Like I said, I just don't argue with my father-in-law. Okay. On April 24th, I sent an email to the school board and Dr. Perrin regarding policy 815.4, use of generative artificial intelligence in education. I do appreciate what the school board is trying to do to get their arms around AI. In my email, I noted some concerns regarding possible impacts regarding the implementation of this policy. Ms. Myers did reach out to me this afternoon to see if I received the message. I replied if I received a response. I replied I had not, and I'd be speaking tonight, and perhaps you will discuss my concerns of the potential implications prior to your vote regarding the policy. My first comment was I would recommend that in the second paragraph under purpose, add a notation that the policy also addresses the administrative environment in addition to the educational environment. You do cover both worlds. Under the section called Delegation of Responsibility, 1, will the staff be required to evaluate, authorize, and disseminate generative AI tools? And if so, what work would not be completed because of this change in focus? Will additional staff be required to support the establishment of the Artificial Intelligence Curriculum Committee? If not, what existing committee work will not be addressed because of the new curriculum committee? Why aren't the department heads included under the other category as a topic-specific evaluators? 4, policy states that the committee shall get training relative to responsibilities on this committee. However, is there a vetted, approved training course available? I just don't know. Under the section called Guidelines, subtitle AI Literacy, will there be an additional cost for the faculty and staff training, and what training will this replace, or is the expectation that the faculty and staff will work additional hours to complete the training? For the students, will the AI literacy be treated as an additional tool for their use, and if so, what will not be taught? For example, there's a section that lists critical analysis of content produced by generative AI. Will this be like a whole new class module? I do appreciate your consideration of working with this policy, but I have lived with the unintended consequences of policies and not understanding the work that went with that, so I hope you will consider that when you look at the policy for your vote today. Thank you.
Julietta, thank you. I was at the policy committee meeting where we discussed this, and a lot of those good questions that you have were discussed and bantered back and forth during that time. So did I hear you correctly that with your email to the board, you did not get a response at this point?
No, only from Ms. Myers as whether I would get one
Right.
or not, or if you guys would discuss that later.
I would ask Dr. Perrin and Dr. Matzer, either they personally or a delegate of theirs, if they would respond to that. So, because I think we have the answers to those questions, because again, I was at that meeting where all those things were discussed. Thanks for coming tonight, and thanks for your good questions.
Thank you.
Yes, we would have answers to anything that's currently in play. We wouldn't be able to answer questions of things that might occur in the future. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Moving on to routine approvals. 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All right. Kenny?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Items for board action.
I'd just like to say real quick, based from the HR agenda, we would just like to welcome Crystal Grossman, who was just approved in that agenda to as an assistant principal at the high school. So just like to say welcome to Crystal.
She's not here tonight.
Welcome. Items for board action. 6.1, approval of proposed final budget. Again, this is just a proposed budget, is not the final budget. Do we want to put both these together, or just you want us to keep separated? Which one?
Separate.
Okay.
6.1 by itself.
Excuse me. Say a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All right. Michelle?
No.
Alice?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kenny?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.2, addendum for cooperative agreement for football. I believe this was to add cheerleading. Do I have a
So moved.
Second.
any questions? All right. Kenny?
Sorry. Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Since
it's
you did
fine.
Alice, I'm gonna
We have
get
very
Al.
similar names. It's okay. I almost do that too.
Michelle?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.3, policy 815. Sorry, I'm squinting now. I should have brought my glasses. 5.4, use of generative artificial intelligence in education. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
So just because we did have people, Julietta spoke about this tonight, so I think, of course, I heard what Dr. Perrin said about not being able to answer exact questions about things that haven't happened yet, but just maybe to understand how policies can work, I guess I just have a couple of quick questions. One being, most of the policies that we put into place that are new like this come from a space of is that me? Oh, goodness. Sorry, I'm getting very close to the microphone. Come from a space of, a need that has arisen in curriculum and in just general education right now. And I know this is a hot button topic. So I guess just to understand and for the public to understand, most of these types of new policies are drafted from and with alongside like the research of what those policies look like elsewhere is my understanding, right? So like we are not the only people creating an AI policy, particularly right now, and that is
more specifically, our administrative team worked with a district-wide group of stakeholders, including teachers, to take a look at what that would look at. What could happen with regards to their responsibility? To answer one of the questions that was asked, we wouldn't need to hire any new staff to put that forward. It would just be work that already exists within the same group of folks. The IU offers a significant amount of training, and it's where a number of our folks have been trained. So I think that there's a realization that this will be a living document over the next 10 to 15 years, that as things emerge, there might need to be shifts in policy along with any guidelines that would need to be created within policy to allow them to occur. We jumped on board very quickly just based on what we were seeing in the landscape across our intermediate unit, the 25 districts that are represented. Dr. Dalton obviously looked at the draft through a legal lens and was comfortable with what was listed there. Since our draft first appeared, I've actually been approached by other districts to say, "Hey, that looks pretty good." So it's although it'll be approved, 4 years from now, it could be back making edits.
Yeah, we edit policies when we need to. The other part of that being that I imagine some of that, if somebody is a part of a committee and ongoing professional development exists in our district regardless. So, should that need arise, I imagine the professional development would be tailored towards that with the time that teachers have for professional development. Absolutely. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Michelle, you have a question?
How did you know? Do we have a lot of kids using AI already in the school?
Absolutely.
And what are they using it for specifically? Do you know?
And you want to give some examples, or even Chris in the back?
Even when they're sending an email, like it's generating, like what can you say for this email? Getting ideas for papers, artwork. There's a lot presentations. I mean, there's a lot of good uses, and we're trying to help students navigate that landscape.
What's important too is, and a reason for policy is the protection of student data and making sure we're following all the guidelines of SIPA, COPA, FERPA. I know that's a lot of acronyms. They're spelled out in the policy. That was one of the main reasons to move forward. And to give a little clarification too, we started with the base of the PSBA model that was provided to us. The committee, that's been a 2-year committee actually, but really focused on the policy for this year, took that, the guidance of our ed tech solicitor from the intermediate unit, and then also Dr. Dalton. So we had kind of a 3-point angle to triangulate what we could to make it fit for Gettysburg. In terms of uses, a lot of the focus has been on teacher use to do some things right now because we need to get things in place for security. Some tools are not allowed for under 18 years old. Some are only allowed for 13 to 18, so we have to be careful with those. But to the point of using, Many of them are embedded in your everyday life now, and you are using them whether you know it or not. We do delineate artificial intelligence from generative artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence of your phone correcting a word for you, that is artificial intelligence. The generative artificial intelligence is when it's mimicking human action to create something new, for example, and that's when you can ask it to, hey, write this paragraph for me or come up with something new for me. A piece that you haven't seen yet, and we have worked on in the committee as well, it's mentioned in here is the district-created scale of AI use from a 0, none at all, to a 2, integrated in different ways. And the part of the training for next year will be making clear to students when it's okay or not okay to use those for different parts of, say, a paper or a project and things like that. So the committee's been working on all of those pieces. I'd say for your kiddos, kids out there, most of them started using it right away within Snapchat because Snapchat added generative AI in it. And often, again, that's for children 13 and above, but parents can bypass that and allow and create an account for their child. So you may have children younger than that using it, but that's a non-school use. We have tools that are built specifically for education, for teachers and students, where they're not collecting any personal and identifiable information, not violating FERPA or any other things, and they might be using it for brainstorming, getting some ideas, images and things like that. But we're very careful with what is used or not used due to the age limitations and requirements set through. So that's why we really need to get a policy in place to make sure we're following all of that. This does fall under 815, which is our responsible use policy. And we have 8.1, 0.2, 0.3, and this is now the fourth one, speaking to the ever-changing world of technology. So it's important that we add this one in here. It's also important to remember that it ties back to that responsible use policy. We purposefully use responsible use rather than acceptable. It's an important part of our jobs to help prepare kids for the future. And this is just another area. It is the #1 skill now in the workforce, #1 fastest growing skill needed. So we need to tie this into everything that we're doing.
And I will say we're a little bit ahead because we have AMBOM and they don't. That's the truth of the matter. Yeah.
So, Mrs. Biggins, you said kids are using this maybe to write emails?
Well, I mean, in general, when you use Google, it actually starts to say, like, what you may want to say next. So we use Gmail as a platform at the high school. And it just starts to kind of fill in what you may want to say.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because I have it on my computer at work as well, but I don't use it because I have a brain and I prefer to use my own brain and my own words. So I guess my concern more is, are we giving kids a crutch by letting them use AI like that, as opposed to making them think on their own?
I think it's teaching them to use a tool responsibly that they're not going to be able to avoid.
It's coaching them, I think, is a lot of what I've noticed, is it's responsible use of it.
We're in another era. I was in teaching when the computer lab came to be, and that was all the rage, and you had to pick your kids up and put them in a line and walk down the hallway and sign it up 3 months in advance. That makes me old, yes. So that was a tipping point. Then the next tipping point was when the internet came out and everyone said, well, they're just going to cheat and look everything up. We could even go back in history and go to the calculator. The same story was brought about. These are technical evolutions, revolutions, and part of our role is to assess what's happening, how it's impacting society, adults, the workforce, children, and find responsible ways to use it and responsible ways to teach it. So that falls under all the things that we do. And we've had a team that's really worked hard to make sure we have what's in place, best in place for Gettysburg. It is not a quick thing. It requires training from educator standpoint as well as our students. Just as we might need to help them learn to write, we need to add this to a skill area for them.
Well, and it's seeming like, I mean, it's a proactive policy in many ways, which you're saying being ahead of the curve is important, and it's not, I often don't feel like any of our policies are there to replace things when it comes to technology, right? So, learning how to use things responsibly is not necessarily saying, and now that's all we're going to do, right? But yet, technology is enhancing the way that we are learning, and hopefully kids can view it that way too and be educated to view it that way.
I think just to add that we know cognitive atrophy, we don't want that to happen. So I think being aware of this and learning about the tools has helped us put other things in place too, where there's more discussions happening, non-technology discussions, doing things in writing more. I found myself doing that in the classroom where it's, okay, let's put the computer aside and let's brainstorm without a computer, whereas we were doing a lot of brainstorming with computers before. So we're very aware we don't want cognitive atrophy to happen. We want kids to be thinking and thinking critically.
It's also, this all falls under the field of educational technology, instructional technology. It is a tool. Purpose first is always the key. We need to know, what do we ultimately want kids to be able to do for a specific activity, and that's the mindset we enter first. Then we decide, does it make sense to do this in pairs and just talk it out? Does it make sense to write this? Does it make sense to go on the computer because we can maybe do something different that we couldn't do in person or just pen and paper? And so that's the whole field of educational technology, is purpose first, then find the right tool to use it, just like many of us have to do in our jobs every day. And now this is just another tool that's going to be available to your jobs and eventually these kids' jobs.
So will there be maybe a list of the approved AI platforms that you'll use?
Yes, so we currently have a COPA list for our online tools that we use. So we will be creating a similar process for the generative AI tools that are collecting personal identifiable information. That's an important piece, right? So if I have no information collected, but I type a word and it finds it for me. It's not collecting my personal identifiable information just by doing that. So we'll have the list of those, just kind of like COPA, which is for children under 13. So we are aware of those. It's the same, it's sort of a similar process. So that will be firmed up this summer so we can implement it in the fall.
And will there be a way to, I guess, differentiate between a student who actually wrote the essay or whether AI wrote the essay? Is there a way to do that now?
So currently the AI detectors are not reliant. The best AI detector right now is the actual teacher themselves. And by putting in this district-created scale, and I'll make sure you have a copy of this then too, and making sure teachers are up front with students to make sure that they know when and when it is not appropriate to be using it, then that will help with that process.
All right, I'm not trying to ask a whole lot of questions, but it's hard for me to be here Tuesdays at 4, so. And this all piggybacks on policy 815.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which-
that's correct.
Right, and I think we all know that I still have issues with policy 815 because we talk about, that goes back to the books that we can get online from Follett, and not all of those books are really appropriate. So I guess that's kind of my concern there as well. But this is just a piggyback on that.
So this is the vote just on point 4.
Yes. Yeah. Point 3. Any more questions? So we'll move on.
Tim, hold on, just one more question. This is just basically our baseline policy. This is
Yes.
going to change, it could change next month.
Probably, I would think sometime next year if they see something that needs change, but I wouldn't see it change in the next couple of months until they start working through some of the PD.
We just had an update a couple of weeks ago from our EdTech consortium at the IU, and I was a little, hesitant, like, oh, they could maybe bring something up that would change things, but there was nothing in there that changed, like, the way we had written the policy. There were some new things developing that we just need to be aware of, but nothing that made us want to change the policy. We do know that 815 in general and all of the sub numbers of that are all technology related, so they do get updated more often than other policies. I believe Jeff Williams and I will be meeting actually to revisit the other numbers this summer as well.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else question? All right. Michelle. Voting. I know it was long, but we're voting now.
We're on the spot.
There was a motion on the table.
Yes, but only because this is a baseline policy.
Alice.
Yes.
Al.
Yes.
Jeremy.
No.
Mike.
Yes.
Kenny.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Board committee reports.
Information.
Oh, sorry, I skipped to the bottom of the page, already flipped. My bad. 7.1.
I have a legislative one.
Oh, no, we're good. You'll get to it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I jumped ahead. I'm sorry, Al. 7.1 Gettysburg School Board vacancy. And you can speak to that, Jason.
Yeah, sure. We had a board resignation, so we'll be advertising for interested parties to serve on the board, and it's laid out in the agenda there, kind of the process, and folks can apply. The board will do interviews, and then whoever's selected by the sitting board would kind of fill the board seat until reorganization in December, and then the actual election process that is coming up would actually fill it for the 2 years that would be left on that seat following reorg. So that's kind of where we are.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Sure.
Just because I think it's important for the public too, but in terms of, so the term itself has another 2 years, like you just said, and you just said that after.
Yeah,
2 plus.
Two plus, yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is this specific vacancy would be filled by somebody until the reorganization meeting after December. And then you said that the election would fill the 2-year spot. So is that being added on to the general election? Like, I don't know how much you know about that. Do you know what I mean?
It's my understanding.
Okay, so it would get added on after the primaries. Okay, thank you.
The elections office will take care of notifying the parties, so the parties can recommend or nominate for the position to fill the 2 years, which will be on the November ballot.
Thank you for filling in as Office of Elections for this evening. Appreciate it.
Any more questions on that? 7.2 Administrative Building Renovations, Barton Associates Design Proposal. You have anything with that, Josh, or?
Yeah, I can give a brief overview on that. A little bit of context to this item. A few board meetings ago, the board had decided to approve my department to go out and get proposal from Barton Associates. That's what's on the table for discussion tonight. Basically, in a nutshell, they proposed a design fee of 6.5%. Which will be based upon the construction costs, or essentially the bids when we get them in. and that would amount to about $265,000 in monies paid to Barton to perform design services as well as their sub-consultants. And there's also a construction administration component to that, which is essentially after the project's bid, we award, if we decide to award, then the fee structure covers, or fee amount covers, then seeing us through project closeout, which is the quote-unquote construction administration. Again, the overall budget is estimated to be about $4.6 million, and the construction cost is about $4.1. So that $500,000 is Barton's fee. We have moving costs, commissioning costs, permit fees, other soft costs that are required just as part of any project. So that's roughly where the numbers fall. And again, just to recap, the main component of the scope is HVAC renovation, similar to what we are currently going through at Lincoln. We just finished it at Getty's, and a couple of years ago we finished it at the high school. There's also an IT component with some office space and some minor architectural upgrades basically necessary as a result of the renovations, as well as new lighting. And that's about it. We'll have some electrical upgrades associated, or necessary, should I say, with the other upgrades that are being proposed. So again, it's just information, basically get it on the table, and our intention is to have it on for action at the next board meeting so we can get a contract in place and get design going. Construction, we're hoping to get construction going next summer, not this coming summer, but next summer. We'll just have to see what the bid environment is and how fast design moves and so forth if we do indeed get a design contract in place. But again, our intention is to have it on for action next board meeting.
All right, thanks, Josh. Anybody got any questions about that?
Can I just verify, this is bond construction fund, so this is already money that we already have to spend, correct? We're not?
That's correct.
Okay. Because I don't want anybody to think we're going out and building something new.
All right, board committee reports? Al?
Yeah. Thank you. Our friends in Harrisburg are considering a legislative proposal by State Rep Joe Ceresi. I'm hopeful that our local state reps, I'm calling out Dan Mal and Torrin Ecker on this, to do this in a bipartisan way to address some restructuring of cyber charter schools and the way that they are funded. Belinda triggered me just a little while ago, and it's talking about its impact on our personal budget here in Gettysburg. But what they're looking to do is to enhance some financial transparency, curb spending unrelated to education, and align funding more closely with the actual cost of online education. House Bill 1372 seeks to address longstanding concerns surrounding accountability, financial inefficiencies tied to cyber charter operations. Under this bill, a single statewide tuition rate of $8,000 for non-special education students would be established, reflecting a more accurate cost structure for online education. This mirrors a proposal included in Governor Josh Shapiro's recent budget address. Additionally, the legislation would implement a special education funding model for cyber charter schools, aligning with the three-tier formula currently applied to traditional public school districts. What's happening now is that these students that are moving into cyber charters that are in general education miraculously all of a sudden need an IEP after being tested by some of the cyber charters, which pretty much doubles what our schools have to pay to the cyber charters. Ceresi's proposal also includes provisions to cap cyber charter schools on assigned fund balances to ensure taxpayer dollars are directed towards education. Restrictions would be placed on public spending for event sponsorships, advertising, and other non-educational activities. Furthermore, the legislation seeks to enhance accountability by expanding conflict of interest rules, ethics standards, and public reporting requirements. So once again, I'm calling out our local state reps to do this in a bipartisan way, and I'm somewhat cautiously optimistic maybe this will move forward. So I'd really like for Dan Mao, Torrin Ecker, and then once it gets into the Harrisburg Senate, Doug Mastriano, to work with the other members of their caucus and so on to move this forward. Thank you, Tim.
What's that House bill number again, Al?
House Bill 1372. And if anyone would feel have a little extra time to give a call and maybe encourage those people to support that, that would be great. And I just want to clarify this. I personally am not against school choice. I'm not against competition with our schools. I think we can compete very well. What I am against is being grossly overcharged for services.
Al, do you know what that would potentially save our district here?
I don't, but I know someone who does.
Because I think that would be important information for the public to know, especially in this time of budget and when we're talking about, we're getting really close and we're talking about half a percent and so on and so forth.
I think it's pretty significant.
We're just talking cybers. We're not talking bricks and mortars. So it's just cybers, and we're about $750,000.
That's where we're at currently.
Correct.
So by...
Probably half that, Jeremy.
What's that?
Probably about half that.
About half that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So roughly $350,000.
Correct.
Close to it. So basically all but 1%.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Al. Program reports?
No, just it was mentioned earlier, but just wanted to reiterate that we do Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week this week all together, and wanted to say special thanks to our food service staff for getting in a little bit early and providing the breakfast at each one of the sites for faculty and staff during this week. They do a different building each day, and Nick Malone and all of his department do an incredible job. It's better breakfast than you're going to get anywhere. But thanks to them, and thanks to everybody during this week of appreciation.
All right. As far as ACTI goes, kind of status quo at the moment. Still waiting to hear if we got any leads on any land. Hopefully this month. They could possibly bring that to us. Also, a recommendation for an assistant principal for the staff there at ACTI, who is way overworked and understaffed. Going back to what Al said, if something like that could get passed, and we're looking at 1%, there's our funding for ACTI, so we can look at that at a magnitude of different lenses as far as what we could do with that money. But yeah, I think it's time something gets done. That's about all I got at the moment.
Thanks, Jeremy. I guess the next board meeting is May 19th, 7 o'clock here at the Administration Building. Anybody give me a motion, we can adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.